Welcome to a video on forward agreements. This is video part 1A. I've divided forward agreements into three videos, part 1A, part 1B, and a part 2. Part 1 looks at a forward agreement as a document and kind of sees what it's doing and why people use it. Forward agreement involves two parties. The two parties are going to be a buyer and a seller. In my example on the next slide, Cowboy agrees to sell to Wonder Woman 100 shares of common stock at $20 per share. Next Tuesday, Wonder Woman agrees to buy it. If we look under Cowboy's picture, Cowboy is a seller. There's always going to be a seller. Under Wonder Woman's picture, there's a buyer. In this case, Wonder Woman is the buyer. So we have one seller, one buyer, and we have two arrows. These are transaction arrows. The arrow flowing from Cowboy to Wonder Woman is got stock. That's the transfer of stock Wonder Woman's buying. And then the upper arrow is the $20 per share that Wonder Woman is paying Cowboy. The $20 is called forward price, and we have a separate video on how the forward price is calculated. Now let's take a look at the view of each of these two parties. In the case of the buyer's view is called long position. Long position always means the buyer is expecting price to rise. So if we assume the forward price is 20, and on Wednesday the stock market price is 20, that's where the arrow points to where the red and green lines touch the zero line. There is zero gain to either party. On Thursday the price goes to 22, so we see that the green line rises to plus $2 gain. We're saying the buyer would say, I'm paying $20 for something worth 22. I have a potential gain of $2 potential because it's not expiration. So the G represents gains. Any price above the forward price is going to result in a gain. If we go with prices less than 20, we see the line is red. For example, on Friday, the price might be 18. So the buyer is paying 20 for something worth 18. They've overpaid by $2, so they have a loss of $2. Anything below 20, below the forward price, would be a loss. That's why the line is red. The seller has the exact opposite position. The gain to the buyer is coming from the seller, so it's a loss to the seller. And the loss to the seller, the loss to the buyer is going to be the gain to the seller. So looking at the next slide, we see the seller's view, which is what we call a short position. Here the green line is where the price is below 20, which corresponds to the red line where the buyer was losing money. So if we start with the first price goes to $22. We know that the buyer had a $2 gain. The seller has a $2 loss. When the price goes to 18, the buyer has a $2 loss. The seller has a $2 gain. So they have mirror images. Simply put, the buyer has a view price is going to rise above the forward price. The seller is got a view that the price will be below the forward price. In this case, we're talking about above $20 and below $20. What are the characteristics of a forward agreement? There is this great feature. You can customize a document for any product you want, any security, any asset, mineral, gold, silver, grain. You can set the expiration date 10 days from now, 30 days from now, a year from now. Quantity could be any quantity you want. Sad part is, or the negative part is, it's a non-negotiable agreement. Neither party can get out of the deal. Because of this, there's high counterparty risk. That means if one of the parties is expecting a large gain, they only get the gain if the other party pays. If the other party doesn't pay, there is no gain obtained. That's called credit risk. There's usually no collateral for credit risk. But the one other item that's important is there's no payments until expiration. So if you have an agreement that's going to expire 30 days from now, you enter into agreement 30 days from now. Over the 30 days, you can imagine paper gains and paper losses. 30 days from now, there's an actual payment made. So there are two ways that the agreement could be settled at maturity. The first way we're going to call is delivery. And delivery means the physical stock is delivered. So I'm looking at the forward price of 20 and two possible outcomes. On expiration day, market price A is 21, market price B is 18. With delivery, the basic example is the seller, in this case Cowboy, delivers 100 shares of stock to the buyer. The buyer, Wonder Woman, buys the 100 shares of stock paying $20. Now let's look at what's happening. The buyer pays 20, not the market price 21. So the buyer is saving $1. The buyer pays $20, not the market price of $18. That's the second example. The buyer is overpaying by $2. So in the first case, the buyer is making money because the price went above $20. In the second case, the buyer is losing money because the price is below $20. Whatever is the buyer's gain is the seller's loss. Correspondingly, the buyer's loss is the seller's gain. The second way of settling is what we call cash settlement. Same prices, we're just seeing how it works. And here it's simply a payment by one party to the other. There's no exchange of the physical asset. So if the difference between the market price and the forward price is positive, in A it's 21 minus 20, which is $1. So the buyer is gaining money. So the buyer receives $1 from the seller. Cash settlement is the $1 payment. If we go with the price B, if the difference between the market price and the forward price is negative, that is 18 minus 20 is -2, the buyer is losing money. The buyer pays the seller $20. This is the summary of the basic concept of a forward agreement.